All right, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Back here at Tomboy Official. I'm recording from indoors. It's like a miracle. The folks are outside in the garden chilling and listening to things on headphones, and so I figure this is about as much space as I'm gonna get. So yeah. Dude, I owe you guys an apology, man. Like, I've been recording. I haven't been posting, but I've been recording. And I'm debating. I'm thinking I'm either just gonna take what I made, post it, and then see how I feel about it, and then delete it if I don't like it, with the more recent posts that I've already made, not this one, but the previous ones that I made last week, the week before, just because a lot has been going on. So I've been posting. I've been recording. I just didn't post any of it. I uploaded barely any of it, but I didn't actually post it. Maybe I did, actually. I think I remember putting in a date, and then maybe I didn't edit something. I don't know. I hope I didn't post something that I didn't mean to post, but I just don't know. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's a fine line for me between being genuine and authentic about things that I post, and then just posting oversharing too much information. I feel like one thing I do like posting about, if something's negative, is that it kind of shows things full spectrum. I hope it doesn't become a drag, and that people don't listen to the podcast and be like, oh, this is so depressing and irritating and triggering, and I don't want it to be like that. Obviously, that's not the goal, but if that's where my headspace is, I don't really fake it either. I'm not just oh, this is a podcast, let me turn on my happy mode and record some happy thing. It's a lot of what I'm recording about can be either about what's on my mind or what's going on recently, or something that's going on that I just came across, and so it is kind of more focused towards what is going on with my life at the time, or just surrounding me, or what I'm running into. It's not so much just completely disconnected from my own experiences, and just talking about too random of things. And some of it's closer to real time, and then others of it is just general theory. So I'm just putting that out there. I do have every intention of continuing to record on a routine basis. Now what routine is, I've said quite a few times what I want that to look like. It doesn't quite look like that yet, but I'm getting closer and closer. Just I kind of hesitate to set too solid of rigid. I don't want it to feel rigid. And it is. I feel even if I do make a routine of something, I can still change my routines. But right now, I've got a lot of things that I'm trying to put into routines. And so I'm kind of just one by one trying to get everything kind of on track the way it would benefit me and others in my life. So, yeah, all that being said, we are going to be doing a 2022 Pride Bootcamp. That's right, guys. I was trying to figure out what's going on, what I want to do for the month of May. We're already freaking halfway through the month, but I spent the first half of the month dealing with the other stuff that I was talking about before with housemates and stuff, and didn't really even post too much of that. But I'm honestly, if I post all of it, it's gonna be very like just me trying to process the whole situation. Um, just the whole sudden, like, the sudden, you know what? Okay, so I can tell you guys kind of how I operate, like, mentally, with a lot of things. Is like, I can tell when I'm involved in something that is like, okay, this is temporary. This is just a transitional type of a stage for me or a pattern for me. But I know a lot of times, most times, pretty much all the time, where I'm trying to get. But sometimes I don't know, like, I don't have like a date in mind of like when I'm gonna change things. I can usually tell when there's that pull towards like, okay, I'm not really happy with things exactly as they are. And then I start getting in this like problem solving mode and try to like change things up a little bit here and there. And then when it doesn't work like completely, that's when I just totally shift into plan B and I just go the next route that I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this route. So for example, a lot of I live with roommates, and I always say, like, yeah, I'm gonna get a place, I live with roommates, but I've never like specifically been like, okay, I'm moving out on this date and I'm leaving on this date and I'm moving into this new space on this date. It's always just been like, I'll know when I feel it. And so for a long time it's been, yeah, this is just like temporary for now, and I'll just put up with the other stuff that goes on. And then that's what kind of hit the fan, was just that, I eventually hit the point where I was like problem solving. I gave it like a 2-3, like a few, like maybe from a Thursday to a Saturday or Sunday worth for problem solving. The issue didn't get resolved, so on to plan B. And I just shifted totally to this whole other side of what I'm trying to do. And so because I operate like that, it's like, okay, I had all these plans for summer and Pride and all these plans for like what summer's gonna look like, and I'm gonna be at the beach at this beach and at this place and at this spot. And I got all kinds of stuff coming up. Now it's like, now I gotta move all my stuff. Now I gotta figure out my car situation. Now I gotta, I have a car. I just need to sell it and get another one. And then, or something along those lines. And, I'm like, okay, like, I need to be solid in everything. But yeah, I did take yesterday off work because of the car situation. On Sunday, I was just like, I can't really push this. If your car's not working at like 3:30 on a weekend and you're like 100 miles from where you need to be, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to have to take Monday to figure this out and not work, because like I was nowhere near work. So that being said, let's see. So I want to start talking about this Pride Bootcamp. So I want Pride Bootcamp to be an experience for people to, be able to kind of come online and be like, what do I want to listen to that's about Pride? I'm going to try and keep it to my own kind of preferences as far as like Pride stuff. So I want to talk about like the different aspects of Pride. And I know most people kind of talk about, which events are going to happen in which city and all that kind of stuff. And like, I think that's cool. But one of the routes I'm kind of a little more curious in thinking about is hmm, I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to decide between a couple of topics that I have written here. I don't know which one I want to start with. I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, I really think that pride has an important role. Now, I do find it interesting when there are specific cities that don't have anything related to pride. Like, it's one thing if you don't have a huge parade, it's one thing if you don't have, musicians coming to like a festival or something like that. Like big name musicians. It's one thing to not have that, but I'm used to the scale of they do exist on that level where it's like you're literally seeing, famous people, famous LGBTQ plus people. Let me see, who have I seen? I think, or allies, even if they're not like LGBT, but just people who are popular musicians and then speakers and things. I mean, there's some people I've seen on different Pride stages. I'll just name a few. Young M.A. I saw Jay Rodriguez from the first season of Queer Eye when it was still on Bravo, like the very first series of it. With like Carson, Kyan, Tom, like all those guys, and then Jay Rodriguez. He was speaking a little bit. He was like an MC. Who else? I think TLC and Vogue. I said Young M.A. Jay Killam from YouTube. I think Eugene from BuzzFeed, as well as Keith. Yeah, just like quite a few people. And I saw some other people at Long Beach Pride that were from BuzzFeed, but I can't remember the specific name. I know for sure it was the tall African American person who's bald or usually has short cropped hair. I think at one point had braids. I don't know if they identify as they or she. I want to say they, but I can't really recall, honestly. But yeah, female born black person at Long Beach Pride. I saw them like walking with one or two other BuzzFeed YouTubers, but I can't remember who they were. And then, yeah, so anyways, not every, Pride has all that going on. I think the smallest scale that I went to was, let me see. The smallest scale that I went to, I don't know if I count these two. I don't know if I'm going to count these two as the smallest. And I'll tell you why. But I think the smallest two that I went to were Vegas Black Pride and then online Compton Pride. But I don't want to say that that's I don't really want to say that that's like those are the smallest. The reason why, so Compton Pride, this is only going to be like their third year in 2022, and their second year was during the Rona, and it was online only. They had like a live, the performers were live on a live stage, and the speakers were live on a live platform stage, like kind of like a talk show type stage, like interviews and stuff like that, and talking about resources and things, but you had to watch it live online. And then who else? So yeah, and since it's only their third year, and then I heard that Compton Pride was getting canceled, and then I believe West Hollywood, I don't know, somebody stepped in and like funded it or something. And then Vegas Black Pride was, I didn't really participate too much, so that's why I can't really say that that it's that it was small. All I know is I showed up, and I'm not trying to like drag them or anything. I'm just saying I showed up at Vegas Pride. I flew in. It was Easter weekend, and I flew in from, I don't know if it was LA or San Diego. I don't remember. I flew in there, I think from San Diego, and it was how do you say? It was it was supposed to be held at Hard Rock the night that we were going, and there was, I guess, someone at the door, and my friend got there first and asked about it, I guess. And before this, like, the tickets had gone on sale beforehand, but then afterwards, like once I got there, because we were gonna wait till last minute to get the tickets, and once I got to town, I remember looking for the information and the tickets weren't available. And then, like, to buy on like Eventbrite or whatever. And so I was like, well, we'll just pay at the door, you know? Like, it doesn't say sold out, it just said like they weren't available. And that, you know, after a while my friend was like, yeah, search like Facebook, Instagram, whatever. We hardly couldn't find like anything. We ran into some people who were outside of Hard Rock, and they basically saw us. We tried to, well, my friend was like, let's get the information. So he took a picture of one of the ladies' phones who was saying it was her birthday. He took a picture of her phone where it showed the address that her friend had sent her, who was going to go. And I flew out to see my friend, so I was kind of like, I don't really want to like go all the way across town to some random like house party. It was like going to be like at a house. And I was just like, okay, this is weird. And then like there was just a picture of like I guess the kitchen, that center island in the kitchen, of the house where it was going to be hosted. But then I saw, on Instagram after the fact, that I feel like that was the right house. And it had some footage, and then I guess there was a basketball game that seemed to have some footage. There weren't like a whole lot of people, and then there was uh what was it? I don't remember what the heck else. There was um Yeah, I think yeah, cuz they had events multiple days. I think it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, something like that. Um and so it was like, well, I don't really know if it happened, or like it looks like only ticket holders got emails about the information. Um Now we could have gone to that house party. We could have gone to any of the other days' events. So that's why I'm saying I don't really want to count that one, because I don't really know, because I wasn't really there. Um, all I know is like what I saw on social media. I mean, you guys can check it out. It was like Vegas Black Pride 2022. Um, all I know is kind of what I saw and people talking, and there were some lives that I listened to um, about some of the, organizers. And I think it sounds like a lot of people were complaining, but I do think that as long as people are willing to try and create these spaces, there will always be forces that are going to shut it down or try to shut it down, right? I mean, we see when we go, to festivals, or if your city has a parade or whatever, you're likely going to see the protesters as well. You're likely going to see, there's going to be the looky-loos, which, like, okay, who cares if they're looking like, that's cool. At least they're like probably thinking and processing something about what's going on. There's the people who are completely against it and just don't say anything or do anything. They're the people who actively try to like do things to just like make stuff not safe. And so yeah, I feel like if you have an event and it doesn't already exist in your city and somebody's trying to organize it, especially if it hasn't been like majorly organized, like really at all, for or ever really tried to get organized, I mean, of course things might come up. So I applaud them actually for trying and for doing it. I'm not going to say that they didn't do it. Just because it's not like a huge scale thing doesn't mean it's not successful. I mean, it brought me into town. I wasn't going to be there. I mean, Vegas did good at their Pride Festival. Their parade was amazing. This was in 2021. I went to Vegas Pride, and it was pretty amazing. And so, there was that one. There was, and yeah, their parade was really cool. The thing that I thought was cool about Vegas that I hadn't seen in too many other cities, maybe San Francisco, I saw this a little more, but in LA, in San Diego, Chula Vista, a little in LA, a little in San Francisco, Compton didn't, I haven't seen it where they had people there, but they did kind of try to cater towards like the food bank. The food bank, I think they had like a food bank or something useful like that. And then like that was in person, obviously. And then I think they had some giveaways too. But yeah, what I was trying to say, I feel like Vegas had more of a family event kind of vibe, and I'm not sure if that was like because there are tourists around. I mean, I'm just kind of speculating here. I was thinking, families travel to Vegas, people travel to Vegas, they might be on vacation, they might be on business, whatever, but like I don't really know the real look of Vegas. I don't know, I can't tell who's local, who's not, like whatever. So I'm not sure, but that was one thing I was speculating as to why I saw so many families with children, strollers. It was a different vibe. It was like a family vibe. You could tell it was like families there, like people with their kids, people with their aunts or uncles. It wasn't so much like in LA, that's a place where you go with your friends. You know, you go out, you party with your friends. You don't really, I mean, it's different too because it's a parade, and parades are a very family oriented type of event. But even at the Pride Festival, I noticed it too, that they, you know, you saw a lot of families, young families. And I was thinking also maybe contributing is because the cost of living is lower, much lower than it is in LA, San Diego, San Francisco. Those places are super pricey. And so to have a family of like 2 kids, 3 kids, you know, and be able to afford to be going out and doing all kinds of stuff, that's going to look different in Vegas than it does in these other cities. So I'm wondering if that contributes too, or if it was just like pure tourism, or maybe there really is a large population of young families in Vegas, or young families who needed a more affordable option, so they've moved to Vegas recently with everything going on in the last few years. And so I don't really know, but I'm just putting it out there that was something I did notice at the parade, that I had never really seen too much. And also at the festival, I was wondering, I was like, wow, there really are a lot of families. They had their pride at the park. It was a park that has like an amphitheater built in, and that was the main big stage. And then they had a smaller stage. There was kind of more like twerking competitions, like little stuff. But there were people on blankets, like sitting there twerking, dancing, but it wasn't like pump up, you know. I feel like Vegas and Long Beach Prides were almost more similar to me, but I feel like Long Beach Pride got more pumped up. It was more like a hyped up crowd. But then again, when you're in LA, the music scene is like a big deal. And even if you're not like downtown LA or Hollywood, I mean, the music scene's pretty big. And so I do notice an energy, generally when I go to concerts, I notice the energy in LA tends to be different than the energy in a lot of other places where I've gone to concerts. I don't know. I'm assuming that majority of the time locals buy the majority of the tickets. But people travel for stuff like Pride and concerts and stuff too. So it's really hard to know, but I'm just kind of talking out loud really. Yeah, so those were the smaller ones. Now, because I've been more involved in San Diego and in LA, I know Hillcrest and WeHo probably better than all those other cities. And so it kind of makes sense to me too that those are within my favorites, as well as San Francisco. LA, they do their thing with, you know, performance, entertainment, performance. I mean, even if you guys watch the Super Bowl 2022, even if you watch the Super Bowl, you notice, you know, the cinematography is different. Everything's just so different when you put it through the lens of Hollywood and LA. And so I feel like even in the Super Bowl, you kind of see that reflection of like how entertainment is kind of like really hyped up out here. And so I feel like at Long Beach and LA Prides, the entertainers are a little more popular, so that also contributes to people being more pumped up when the music's going. Because, you know, it's different if it's like an artist you don't even know who they are, or if they're lip syncing or like just dancing, or just like, you know, some smaller scale artists that are just local people, but, you know, you don't know anything about them until you just see them the first time, versus when you're, you know, you're going knowing that there's going to be big names there, or you pay knowing in advance what's going to happen. So I don't know. I just feel like it's really not like all too obvious. But I also feel like yeah, like it doesn't really matter which one's bigger, which one isn't bigger. That kind of thing doesn't matter as much to me, honestly, so long as they do something. I mean, that in itself is challenging enough to get a city to host it routinely every year and make it better every year, or at least sustain it at the same like level. I just barely learned that Oceanside has a pride. I've never been. Chula Vista had a pride that I went to in, I think, 2019. It wasn't big. They had a lot of tables and booths and things. It was free. I think parking donation of like $5 or $10, but I think it was free otherwise. And I think it was at the marina, and there was a band. It was like just like a local kind of like alternative rock band that was playing when I was, there walking around, but it wasn't like a huge event. It was in the daytime, like afternoon in the summer. Nobody I knew anything about it, really. Just me and my friend, we do all kinds of events and stuff together, so we just went to that one because it was there. It was like, whatever, we're just gonna go to anything within a drivable distance that's just convenient and they say pride. But yeah, I mean, so that's just a general overview. But I was, because I'm not trying to like complain, but like I was just mostly, I guess, interested in learning how Vegas Pride wasn't so entertainment heavy, and even though the rest of the city is pretty into that kind of stuff, it's very touristy. I thought it was going to be a lot more like LA, but it wasn't too pumped up, so that to me was very interesting. And I'm not sure how huge the population even is in Vegas. One thing I did notice about Vegas, and maybe it was just some of the places I was at, but there really are a lot of minorities. And I know things are getting better for minorities, all different types of minorities overall, but that does tend to be one more extra layer, if not multiple layers, added to the complexity of things, when you add different like ethnicities that aren't like white, or that aren't cis, or that aren't hetero. It's like you start adding all kinds of different layers there, to you kind of wonder in the population, like, how many people really are there, because they're not always visible, and they don't always make themselves visible, and they can't always safely be visible. And so I feel like we're getting better, all of us guys, everybody's getting better, and some important questions are being asked and answered. There's a lot that's even shifted in my own lifetime, even as far as gay marriage being legal, or different laws to protect gender identity and different laws to protect, discrimination against sexuality and like laws to protect certain, groups of people. Now it's not even equal across every state. So that's another thing, is that just like we saw, it's like a few states make something more legal, a few states make something more legal, and then, it can eventually become something legal everywhere, but it's not always legal. I feel like we're almost always in competition with Canada. It's like they one up us every time on their, what do you call it? Ability to be open-minded, and then we kind of see what they're doing, and it's like, oh, well, I don't know. We still have our reasons to kind of like be hesitant. I mean, I don't feel like I'm that hesitant about most things. Like, I talk to people a lot every day as my job, so, I tend to just be cool with people doing whatever it is that they're doing, as long as you're not like harming yourself or other people. I'm usually gonna be cool with it. You do you. But yeah, it's kind of like an intro to Pride Bootcamp. I'm hoping it'll all be fun for peeps. You have to tell me what you think. But that's generally what I had to say. And then, I mean, it's been hard to even want to record anything about like festivals for like a long time. Festivals, concerts, parties, bars, clubs, anything like that. Because like, I mean, nothing's really been going on, and a lot kind of shifted during the Rona. And now, at least for me, my habits and routines and activities have shifted a bit into other areas that aren't just party all the time. So, I mean, it's not that that was my only interest ever. It's just that, I grew up in such a conservative, traditional way, and not wanting to be that way all the time. Like, I do actually enjoy things that are conservative and traditional at times, when it's not like shaming. Sometimes there's just like some comfort in it. Like for example, the other couple weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, I was with a friend, a really close family friend of mine, and I haven't been to church in like ages, and we're both there for a memorial. And there were some hymns that, they started singing, and there was a pianist, and it was like a Friday night, and we're just like kind of joking, like, hey, does this count as church? Because it's technically Sabbath, and like, does this count as church? And we were kind of joking about that. And then they had a sermon, and they had the speeches and everything that people do at memorials, all the speaking and everything. But yeah, the hymns, I was like surprised how comforting that felt. I was like, this feels right. I really liked, just the hymns, that was just a really nice experience, even though, there's a lot also attached to all of that. Like, there was just something about it that was just like nostalgic and just like familiar. And then there was other stuff that became familiar that I was like, okay, but that was a good familiar. But so I'm not like knocking it. I'm just saying, I'm not always in the mood to be like forced to be like in that mode. Like, I'm not trying to like just only listen to hymns and sing that all the time. Like, I like mainstream stuff too. So, let's see. Yeah, but I guess the only other thing would be, kind of about like parties. Now, I don't know too much other than LA. Um, I've been to clubs and bars, like combinations of clubs and bars in some other cities. Um, the thing that I don't like about straight spaces is that there's not a lot of room for, expression, like diversity of expression. Now, a lot of us have the experience of, your gender identity and your gender expression maybe not really always meeting the gender you're born with. Now, the more closely a person tends to align, or according to the public perception, when they view a person, if you appear to kind of align with your name, what you were assigned at birth, and then what you look like, how you present yourself, and as in like mannerisms, actions, activities, and your clothing styles. Like, if you meet the stereotypes, you're usually not going to get a lot of backlash. But the more you kind of vary from that, the more challenging it gets. If you have a name that might appear a certain way or might appear kind of more neutral, or if you have a fashion that's either like really masculine or really feminine, or even androgynous, depending, what people think you are and how you look to people, and how they, that determines a lot of times how they act, how they react, how they treat you. I mentioned something funny once when an Uber, I don't know if it's Uber or Lyft driver, he started telling me that he went to a strip club, and I couldn't, when I was like reflecting on that, I was like, I couldn't tell if he was telling me because I'm a woman and he's picking me up in a, gay neighborhood, and he knows that maybe I might like women because of where he picked me up, and he's trying to relate, or if he's trying to like prove to me how straight he is by going to strip clubs and that he doesn't hang out in that area. I didn't really know what to say. So, I didn't say anything because I didn't latch on to it. I was just like, oh, this guy's friendly. And I was interested in talking about the strip club too. So I was like, okay, but I wasn't really, like, later on I was like, was his intention kind of like coming from another place, or was he really trying to connect on talking about it? Because he didn't really seem like he really was trying to talk about it, which was the thing. It's like he mentioned it, he brought it up, and then I remember like, okay, like I didn't really get, like I wasn't like asking him intrusive questions, but I was trying to get like we were talking about where we hung out or whatever, and I was just kind of casually like, I always ask Uber drivers that, like, hey, do you come over here a lot? Like, do you hang out over here? What kind of places do you like in this area, kind of thing? So if they're picking me up from like a gay bar, and it's like the neighborhood where all the gay bars and clubs and stuff are, and then I'm usually going to ask them if they hang out there. Like, it doesn't matter to me if they do or not. I mean, they know I do because they just picked me up from there. So it's like, whatever. But he was saying he doesn't hang out there, and that he instead went to a strip club recently, or that morning or day or what, I don't remember when, honestly, but he mentioned that. So I was like, cool. So maybe he just wants to talk about that. So I was kind of asking him, just like I would have asked him if he would have said he hung out in that neighborhood. I kind of asked him like if there's certain places he likes, or like which ones he likes better or why or whatever, and like he just wasn't really, I don't remember, it just didn't feel like we were really having a conversation about it. So I was kind of like, okay, well, to me that's like normal, but maybe that's not normal. Maybe he was just like, oh, I can't talk to some woman about strip clubs. And I'm like, dude, like, I just want to know which ones you like, because maybe I want to check it out. Like, who knows? Like, but, yeah. I think, finding parties, be safe about it though. Don't just like show up. I mean, with the Vegas Pride thing, that was the Black Pride. That was the hard part, was trying to make that decision to not go, just because we weren't worried because it was Black Pride and Black people were going to be there. We were worried because we don't know this person. We don't know this house. I'm not even from here. I don't know like which neighborhoods are like what, or what things are like what. And the people that we were getting the address from, I already kind of got a vibe from them. I mean, I'm not saying that they weren't nice or whatever. They were totally polite, but one of them just kept like looking at me weird. I felt maybe I was paranoid. I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe it was a good thing. I don't know, but she was just looking at me. I felt like she was looking at me a little weird. So see, this is probably not even accurate thinking, but I had assumed, because of the way I was presenting that evening, I had assumed that she thought about me a certain way. Not that she was like liking me or something, but I had assumed that she, how do I say this? So, say for example, in New York, you have studs. You have, I mean, I don't even know what terminology to use. I mean, I hate using words like dyke, but I feel like in New York, people say dyke. In San Francisco, people say dyke. I haven't really heard it in LA, San Diego, places like where I'm at right now. But just as far as that, and then that term and stud, and I feel like also in minority cultures, especially with Latinas and Black people, the masculinity for a more masc presenting person is rarely more towards the androgynous, and is rarely more towards the STEM. There's usually not a lot of like STEMs and androgynous people, LGBT people, that are that are like Latina or Black. Now, they exist for sure. I mean, I'm one of those people. A lot of people I follow on YouTube are those people. But I just feel like when people are from some states where it's like you have to like be like more like, outwardly like presenting more similarly to males in that culture, in your neighborhood, like in your area, you would be more similar to the males of your ethnic group. I see minorities doing that more, and I feel like maybe with like Caucasian or white LGBT plus people, I do see a little more of that like middle androgyny, STEM, a little bit more flexibility with things, as far as dress styles, attitudes. I don't know if the word stigma, like taboos, I guess, like, I've seen more probably white, kind of more mask white lesbians dating than I have seen like two studs, like stud for stud, or like, and that's like a term, like stud for stud, it's like, like feminine black women, masculine black women who are into other masculine black women. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. But anyways, I was kind of thinking that they were looking at me like, you don't look that mask. Kind of like there's not a lot of soft butch energy where they're from, maybe. I kind of got that vibe. I don't really know, but maybe they're picking up on my energy, because then I started getting maybe a little nervous. So it's kind of hard to tell, like, what, maybe she wasn't looking at me weird at all. Maybe it's all in my head. I feel like that's more likely the reason. It's mostly likely that. So yeah. But all right, I'm gonna end this episode because I actually finished talking maybe like 20 minutes ago, and then just kept going. But I do have more stuff to say. Just let me stop adding to this one. But yeah, look out for the Bootcamp episodes. They'll be coming. And I'll see what I do about posting those other ones that I just mentioned earlier. I'll see. But guys, thanks for listening.